Jarome Iginla has retired as a player, but as a man, Iginla's flame will never be put out. Where do you start? Really, where do you start for a player who played 20 years in the NHL, over 1,500 games, over 1,600 games if you include the playoffs? Well, you can maybe start with his real full name. This is it. This is the full thing. It's got a lot going on. Tig and Elvis and literally half a dozen other names. And I'm not gonna lie, even though I knew this was coming, it was sad to watch Iginla retire because I grew up a Leafs fan. A lot of people right now just like, nope, click. But you gotta remember, as a Leafs fan, the Leafs sucked for a big chunk of my life. And for a very long time, Iginla was my favorite non-Leaf. And I'm not sure where that started. Could have been 2002 at the Salt Lake Olympics. Put his country on his back in the final game so he could put gold around his neck at the end of it. Scoring Canada's second and fourth goal at a 5-2 gold medal win. Who can't get behind a moment like that? I think what made Iginla stick to me was the fact that he did it all. Goal scorer. He could dish it out. Team captain, but hands of granite. And what fight are you thinking about when it comes to Jarome Iginla? What's his most famous fight? Come on. Yeah, you're thinking about Iginla taking on Vincent Lecavalier. Captain versus captain. Two big men, too. And that fight was crazy and exciting, and I loved it, but that's not the Iginla fight I remember the most. My favorite Iginla fight, October 2002, Flames versus Stars, Iginla versus Bill Guerin. It's a tilt, and if you watch any video after this one, let it be that. Him and Guerin are scrapping. You know, hockey fights is a lot of jersey tugging, right? They get separated, and Iginla clocks Guerin with a left. And Guerin's stunned. He almost goes down, but Iginla grabs him and he jerseys him. Uppercuts for lunch. And then with Guerin down, prone, nothing to do, Iginla gets out the right and works the body. The first two punches don't really do anything because he hits him in the hockey pants. The third one, whoa, right under the ribs. Needless to say, that was the last punch of the fight. Guerin dropped to his knee. According to hockeyfights.com, the most amount of fights Iginla had in one season was 6. He only had one other season of 5 or more fights. Iginla didn't have to fight a ton. One, he shouldn't be. He's his team's star, their captain, their best player. And generally speaking, you want your best player on the ice. But I think a big reason why Iginla didn't fight more often is players just knew better. Because Iginla took his licks. He got decked a few times, bloody eye from Shanahan, that fight, but he wasn't afraid to take it. And any potential opponent had to ask themselves, do I want to take it too? Do I really want to deal with those kitchen counters he calls fists? And he fought right to the end. Iginla's final NHL season, he had 4 fights. 6'4", nearly 220-pound Tom Wilson, 6'2" and 210-pound Cody McLeod, who has more than twice as many penalty minutes as games played, 6'3", 225 Patrick Maroon, and his last NHL fight was against a member of the Calgary Flames, 6'2", 214 Derek Engelland. Big game hunter. A lot of countries, they have like brands of hockey. With Team Russia, you expect a lot of skill, a lot of speed. Swedish hockey is a lot of finesse and very tactical. The Finns have developed a reputation of being tenacious, relentless. It's hard to put into words exactly what the Canadian brand of hockey is, but whatever it is, it's Jarome Iginla. Everyone talks about Sidney Crosby and the golden goal, but before Crosby got that puck, what did he scream? Because Iginla, who had basically just come off the bench, was working hard in the corner, passed the puck off at the final second, and the rest is history. In fact, because of that moment and my already pre-existing love of Jarome Iginla, I named my dog Iggy. He's a golden doodle, and the golden goal is brilliant, trust me. In fact, here he is to reenact some of Iginla's finest moments. Remember that famous shift where he played without a helmet? I was ready to be sad for Iginla's retirement, but maybe because he's had a year to think about it, sort of contemplate it, he's at peace with it. So his goodbye presser, if anything, was funny. He's cracking jokes, he's making fun of himself, making fun of his former teammates, ripping on Craig Conroy, making cheesy Fortnite jokes about his kids, like a dad! And that was just, just what I needed to get through this. Because you know what? He is a hockey player, or was. Now he's a former hockey player, but he's a dad. And not just he's a dad, he loves being a dad. He's such a proactive dad, his family means so much to him. So I got to work with Nike for a while, hence all the check marks and free stuff that I got like years ago. Jarome Iginla was a Nike athlete, so he was a topic of conversation often. And one thing that was said about him is, man, when the hockey season is over, he goes away. Oh, he goes on vacation? No, he goes away, like the mountains. He's hard to get a hold of. But towards the end of his career, when he was with the Colorado Avalanche, he visited Toronto, and I got to be in the Avalanche locker room before a game once. I mean, really, I was just standing beside the camera while Sofia Jurcevic actually asked serious questions. And Jágr at the time, and it's ironic, and we'll get to that, Jágr at the time was on this incredible, oh my goodness, how is he still playing stretch? And the question was something along the lines of, do you see yourself playing as long as him? And he said something along the lines of, yeah, well, I mean, he's single and doesn't have any kids. So while I'm sure the decision to retire was painstaking and difficult to make, I think part of him was looking forward to this a little bit. And if he's the same kind of dad as he was a hockey player, those kids have a great dad. Jarome Iginla is an excellent example of how there are levels to greatness. There's good players, guys who are all-stars a couple times, perennial all-stars, Olympians, Hockey Hall of Famers, which Jarome Iginla absolutely is, and we'll talk about that more later. But then there's the other stuff that comes with being an NHL player. Talk to a couple fans, sign a couple autographs. That should be a given. Team engagements, things like visiting a local hospital, saying hi to the kids and stuff like that. Maybe you donate some money here or there, you know, you're a rich NHL player after all. Then there are the people, the legends that go above and beyond. This tweet from Wes Gilbertson is a perfect example of that. Wes Gilbertson tweeted out this story from Sean Donovan, who used to play with Iginla, and it's perfect. The one story I always tell about Jarome, I remember being in a cab in Dallas, Texas, and he was in the front seat and he was talking to the driver. And the guy was from somewhere in South America and he had never seen hockey. They just sparked a conversation. We were in the back doing our own thing, and all of a sudden he said, well, I play for the Calgary Flames. Do you have any interest in going to a game? The guy said, yeah, sure, it would be pretty cool, but I can't afford it. And Jarome got him tickets, asked, how many family do you have? And I remember seeing him after the game. He was there with his family. Jarome got him 4 or 5 tickets and passes to wait after the game, and he said hi to them. It was obviously 5 new fans of the game. But he did that a lot of games. He never made any big deal of it, just did it. It's the off-ice stuff that I'll remember the most. It's the off-ice stuff I'll remember the most. Who does that? With hockey dazzling our eyes, that's the bare minimum. Jarome Iginla captured hearts, particularly of Calgary Flames fan, and he's forever a Flame, and he's just straight up a Flame. Like Penguins fans, Bruins fans, Avs fans, and Kings fans, you all get it. Like Iginla had a 30-goal season with the Bruins, but I'm sure every goal he scored, there were still some Bruins fans looking at him going, huh, this is weird. Anyone else seeing this? In this press conference, it was a good way for him to end, like, as a Flame. But apparently, he could have actually ended as a Flame! From Sportsnet's Faisal Khamisa, Brian Burke just told me on air that before signing Jaromir Jágr last season, the Flames had long talks about bringing Iginla back, but chose to sign 68 instead! You're the worst! Are you serious? Yeah, but Jágr had a decent 16-17 season with the Panthers. Yeah, you know, I don't care. There's some situations where you have to go with what's cool. That would have been so cool! Like Theoren Fleury's moment, except not a shootout in an exhibition game. You could have had him back for another season! And hey, if you really want to get meta with it, if there were any locker room problems, he could have Jarome Iginla them away. Which is super reaching, but I don't care. How don't you bring Jarome Iginla back? And you know what's amazing? They didn't bring Iginla back. And his final game in Calgary was still perfect. A goal, an assist, he was +3 if that's still your thing, and he got into a fight! And he got the wave, he did the wave! And the weird tongue dog guy was on the ice with him. It was beautiful, man. And finally, the question, is he a Hockey Hall of Famer? Okay, there is no magical number to get into the Hockey Hall of Fame, but if there was, it's 600 goals. Only 20 players have ever scored 600 NHL goals. Not counting Iginla because he just retired. 17 of those 20 players are retired. Every single one of them is in the Hockey Hall of Fame. The only 3 that aren't are Jarome Iginla, who literally just retired, Jaromir Jágr, who may never retire, and Alex Ovechkin. And he did that in an era pretty much exclusively where goals were hard to come by. In fact, HockeyReference.com has era-adjusted stats, where they basically do a little bit of math and they figure out how many goals you would have if you adjust for your era. If you played in the high-flying 80s where everybody was scoring 30, 40, 50 goals a season, they took your numbers down, and if you played in the late 90s, early 2000s when nobody was scoring, they bumped your numbers up. According to Hockey Reference's metric, Jarome Iginla has 706 era-adjusted goals, good enough for 6th all time, behind just Brett Hull, Teemu Selanne, Wayne Gretzky, who's third by the way, Jaromir Jagr, and Gordie Howe. Which doesn't mean Gretzky sucks. Google era adjusted Gretzky, I wrote about it last year. But Iginla was amazing. He had a 50+ goal campaign in 2002, which should have got him the Hart Trophy, by the way. This is from the Calgary Herald, March 7th, 2008. In 2002, the Calgary Star scored 52 goals for a mediocre Flames team and was the popular choice of his peers for the Lester B. Pearson Award as the top player in the National Hockey League. That's now the Ted Lindsay, by the way. But when it came time for the writers to award the Hart Trophy as the NHL's most valuable player, Iginla lost by the slimmest of margins to Montreal goalie Jose Theodore, who had backstopped the Habs into the playoffs. It turned out the margin of defeat was a single writer who inexplicably left Iginla off his ballot of the top 5 players in the NHL that season. Hard to believe about the player who won the scoring title by 6 points over his nearest rival and defied the clutch and grab style of the day to top 50 goals. The reason given by the anonymous writer, rumored to be from Theodore's home province, was Iginla's Flames had not made the playoffs. And how valuable is a player who can't get his club into the postseason? Holy hanging Chad, not the proudest moment in the history of voting for the award. To his credit, Iginla has never publicly obsessed over the 2002 snub, and the Professional Hockey Writers Association subsequently made changes to the system to prevent any recurrence of Theodore's squeaker. Too long did not read. In the year that Iginla scored the most goals in the NHL, the most points in the NHL, and was named the MVP by his peers, he lost the Hart Trophy because someone who just likes the Habs clearly voted Theodore #1 and left Iginla off the ballot entirely. Jobbed! And in true Iginla fashion, dirt off his shoulder. And by the way, I'm looking at that going, that's ridiculous! And then I'm looking at how we ranted about how McDavid didn't deserve to win it this year, and I'm going, feeling a little embarrassed. But look, regardless, Iginla's a Hockey Hall of Famer. He's an all-timer. Some guys at the end of their career, they go, yeah, but they never won the cup. Who is saying that about Iginla? Who is looking at that and going, yeah, his fault? Not anyone who watched the 2004 playoffs. Not anyone who ever saw him play for Team Canada. Jarome Iginla was. Jarome Iginla is a winner on and off the ice. Lastly, and I promise lastly, just talking about Iginla from a personal level. When I was still in university, I was in my 4th year at Ryerson for Radio and Television Arts. Nike, for some reason, must have got drunk and decided to give me an opportunity and let me interview a bunch of their athletes and do videos for them. Started with the World Juniors, guys like Jordan Eberle, Nazem Kadri, Ryan Ellis, Alex Pietrangelo. Knowing that I'm working for Nike, I might get to talk to Jarome Iginla, this player who I've held in such high regard for so long. And the day finally came about a month before the Olympics in Calgary, appropriately enough, where I got to meet Iginla. Shook his hand, he's got the biggest mitts. And to use Adam Wild's favorite term, the nicest human being. And when the gold medal game came, he set up the game-winning goal. They screamed, Iggy! Years and years later, Sportsnet started letting me on TV to do my little goofy YouTube rants. And after Iginla visited town with the LA Kings to play what might have been, and we now know was, his final game in Calgary, I made a video and it went on TV. Just, oh my goodness, I love Jarome Iginla. Little did I know, Ron MacLean saw that video. And a few days later, Saturday night, Hockey Night in Canada, Ron and Don are just chit-chatting about that clip, and Ron MacLean brings me up on air, brings up the video that he saw. Jarome Iginla has been there for so much of my hockey life. When I was a kid, I had his cards, and I remember being like, ooh, a rookie. In grade 8, watching the gold medal game, riding my bike home with the Canadian flag hanging off the back and waving in the wind. Meeting him in Calgary in 2010, and then watching the golden goal. Saw him get traded to the Penguins in 2013 and wondering why, even though I'm not a Flames fan, my feelings are kind of hurt. To getting mentioned on Hockey Night in Canada by Ron MacLean. It's crazy to say, but I'm old enough to remember Iginla being one of the new guys. And now that he's retired, it's the end of an era. So, Mr. Iginla, on behalf of myself, and I'm sure on behalf of the entire hockey world, thanks. And may your flame always burn the brightest. That is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends and try not to cry. Iggy, say bye, Iggy. He shoots! He scores!